So the forgotten sense is the result of many, many years of discovery. I've been looking for a very long time, for my entire adult life, for the fundament of our experience. What is at the foundation of our experience? I've always known, ever since I was a child, that our existence had some meaning, some purpose. But what is it ultimately that supports that and allows for us to penetrate to the depths of that in such a way that we can then express it? And so I've been looking for this, what I refer to as the critical point of our experience. And the forgotten sense is that critical point. It was a total surprise to me when I found it, but it literally is a sixth sense. And so in the forgotten sense, currently the program is built in 3 tiers. There are 3 levels. And the first level represents an educational model that allows for us to gain a practical understanding for what that sixth sense actually is. And we go through the way that our senses work, and specifically how it is that this extra sense, so to speak, has been forgotten and how it can be made use of. And that application is actually a unification of our mind and our bodies as cooperative forms of awareness, which in and of itself is a fairly dramatic upgrade to our way of perceiving life, because most of our modern society, as you and many of your listeners are already aware, so much of the force of that societal upbringing, so to speak, has been focused mentally. And so we are very aware of our mind, and we have, in many cases, become disembodied from the bulk of our natural intelligence, what I refer to as natural intelligence. And so we're disconnected from ourselves. And as we unify these 2 forms of awareness, we come into contact with a whole new way of relating to life. And so the forgotten sense level 1 model shows us how to first understand that, and second, make use of it. And then level 2, with the one I just launched, brings all of that down into everyday life. And it expands on what I refer to as wayfinding. Wayfinding is an everyday practice, a moment-by-moment practice that has transformed my life from the inside out. And ultimately what it is it's reminding us how to reconnect to life as an expression of nature itself, rather than an artificial attempt to become something. Dramatic shift.
An artificial attempt to become something. Wow. I love that. Okay, let me go back a little bit, because I know people are they're like trying to grasp. Going back to the sixth sense. So does that look like something unique for each person, or is that something that is the same for everyone?
It's fundamental for everyone. Yep. So, and that's a part of what excites me, by the way, about the forgotten sense, because as we explore systems like human design or the gene keys, and we gain a very faceted perspective on the individual, we do end up in what is oftentimes a bit of a mire of detail and information. And in the right frame of mind, that apparent mire can, of course, be deeply revealing. And most of us encountering this conversation right now are in that world. We gobble it up, we savor it, we make use of it. But under all the information is something that exists on a principle level, and that's where I've always been focused. I'm intrigued by the data, by the information, but what's under it? What supports it? What are the underlying principles that support life? And that's what the forgotten sense speaks to. So I often like to say that the forgotten sense is the sort of content that I would love for everyone to have, every human being, anywhere in the world, of any age. If I were to raise a child, I would raise the child with this awareness, because it would reconnect them and sustain a connection to their own inherent awareness system, their inner guidance, their wisdom.
So what would that look like to raise a child and support them in having that awareness?
I can't speak to that because I haven't raised a child. However, what I do know is that it would be certainly include a continual return to their own knowing, in spite of my apparent adult awareness system. So oftentimes this is what happens as we become, adults and experts in living, which none of us are. We impose our perspectives on others, and And that is nowhere more true than when we're raising a child, because we're afraid for them and we want them to succeed. But I do believe that there are natural patterns in place that support growth, and those patterns are far more intelligent than our best attempts to be intelligent. And our typical attempts at upbringing and at training and unfortunately at programming others are primarily intellectual, and life's processes are organic and they're written into the body system itself, not the mind. So I would really want to focus on helping a child to understand that their mind works in service to the wisdom of the body. They work together. There's a marriage of these forms of awareness, and that awareness can be tapped as a holism, as a unity, not this mental pendulum that we constantly find ourselves on. So that's obviously a much bigger question than we can cover in this conversation, but a good one nonetheless.
Well, I'm wondering if there's anything you could tell the audience about, like, how could they start connecting with that forgotten sense?
Yeah, okay. It's so hard not to just leap right into, well, here is what the forgotten sense is, and here's how it works, because that's what the nerd in me wants to do. But ironically, the easiest way to access the forgotten sense is through the body keys, which we're also going to talk about, because this capacity that each of us has to come down into the body, to remember that we are touching life through experience every single moment. That's what I would like to offer every listener. We have all of this vital energy given up to the conceptual cloud, the storm cloud for most of us in our heads. And that vital energy, if it can be rooted in our physical experience, in particular, our sensory relationship with life, if we can do that, then we become present to the richness of experience rather than losing ourselves to the storm of concept. And so what I often like to offer as a beginning point is to feel yourself in your feet. I once read something, I believe it was by Thich Nhat Hanh, actually, a long, long time ago. He talked about walking as if your feet were kissing the ground. And I've loved that ever since. So how can you bring your mental awareness into your every step so that your energy comes, because that's what happens is we attend to anything, we are giving our energy over to it. And so if you can pay attention to your feet, then that energy starts to filter down in through the body and integrates in ways that it simply cannot while we're spinning up here in the head.